It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Right, on the show today, our theme is the sports fans. You are at the heart of all of our three stories that we have lined up today. We start with Lionel Messi and India's GOAT tour. The hype has been real. There were many viral moments and a few disastrous ones too. But my question is this: what has it done for the Indian football fan and Indian football? Second story is around the Indian Premier League auction. What goes behind the scenes in the days leading up to an auction, big or small? What are some of the myths that you may harbor about an auction strategy and what you see on the screens that we might just break here, and how does it all work? And the third is around the FIFA World Cup. The organizing body promised an inclusive World Cup for all. But is that what they will deliver? The fixtures are out, and just when you, the fans, tried to see where you could catch a game, come the ticket pricing. Is this going to become a World Cup for the rich? But first, the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with cricket, India beat South Africa by 7 wickets in the third T20 match to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Put into bat first, South Africa were bowled out for 117. Arshdeep Singh, Harshit Rana, Varun Chakravarti and Kuldeep Yadav picked 2 wickets apiece. In reply, India chased the target inside of 16 overs. Abhishek Sharma top scored with 35. On to football, the Premier League title race heats up after the 16th match day. Table toppers Arsenal beat Wolves 2-1 to stay on top of the table, but the Gunners are facing a tough competition from a resurgent Manchester City. Erling Haaland scored a brace to help his side beat Crystal Palace 3-0. City are just 2 points behind Arsenal. In news from the NFL, Kansas City Chiefs have been officially eliminated from the post-season playoff race. For the first time since 2014, the three-time reigning AFC champions have missed qualification. To make matters worse, their star quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, tore his ACL, ending his season prematurely. Over in the NBA, LeBron James produced a masterclass to rally his side LA Lakers to a comeback win over Phoenix Suns 116 to 114. James scored 26 points to help his side go from 6 behind to 18 points ahead at a stage. The Lakers are 4th in the Western Conference points table. And summing it up with squash, India's scripted history, becoming the first Asian nation to win the Squash World Cup title. They beat Hong Kong 3-0 in the final. Joshna Chinnappa secured the women's tie, followed by Abhay Singh and Anahat Singh winning their respective games to seal the match. Before this, India's best performance was the third place finish in 2023. India embraced football icon Lionel Messi's 3-day visit with full gusto. There were viral moments, heartwarming exchanges, as well as chaos and mayhem. All unforgettable. But here's the real question we must ask: what does Messi's India visit actually translate to? Because while Messi in India as a headline, that sells, will it have benefited you, the Indian football fan, or the sport in the country in any real way? That's a debate. Because this is a nation struggling to keep its footballing culture alive and structure itself present, and a nation that wants to be a sporting powerhouse, not just a fan base. So tonight, let me break it down for you. For months, everything revolved around Lionel Messi's India tour. It began with speculation, then came, of course, grand itinerary, followed by ticket prices that raised eyebrows across the country. Fans rushed in, nevertheless. Packages sold out. The moment was locked in. And on December 13th, 2025, India finally got its wish. A private jet, number 10 on its tail, initials of his wife and 3 children etched, touchdown at Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose International Airport, Kolkata. Out walked one of the greatest footballers the game has ever seen, but sadly, the dream began like this. Messi's Kolkata visit, which included the unveiling of a towering 70-foot-tall statue and a high-profile interaction with Shah Rukh Khan, Bollywood star, ended in utter chaos. Fans who had spent some of their whole monthly earnings into what turned out to be a nightmare. Not the image Indian football wanted to project to the world. A horrific start to what was supposed to be an iconic tour. To be fair, Hyderabad and Mumbai did major damage control going forward. Fans finally got what they had asked for. Messi without the rush, without time shackles, without any disorder. Children playing football, celebrities meeting their hero, Messi smiling, relaxed, present. Now, two images caught all shutterbucks and an entire nation's imagination. A cricket legend, of course, meeting a football icon. Sachin Tendulkar, Lionel Messi, number 10, $1 million frame, and then India's greatest footballer, Sunil Chhetri, of course, standing alongside arguably the greatest in the world, Messi. If there was ever a picture to promote Indian football, this was it. But zoom in and a far more uncomfortable story emerges. Sunil Chhetri and Lionel Messi, separated by just 20 international goals, two icons, two leaders, two careers built solely on longevity and excellence. Yet today, they stand in completely different realities. Messi is preparing to defend a World Cup title in 2026 in just months from now. Sunil Chhetri, meanwhile, isn't even sure whether his own country will have a domestic league next season. The Indian Super League hangs in a limbo. Zero bidders, no commercial rights takers, administrative paralysis at the AIFF. This is the same Chhetri who recently pleaded for Indian football's survival. And that's where the irony really hits us all hard, and it should. That's where we as sports lovers have to pause and truly think about this. On one hand, the GOAT Tour is generating millions. Just to see Messi from far, fans have paid close to $550 unofficially. Many have bought $120,000 corporate packages to just meet and interact with the legend himself. But on the other hand, you see India's top football league gasping for breath. Ironical, isn't it? That's the sharp contrast we're trying to make you see here. The right here is uncomfortable truth that you, the fans, and Indian football today need to face. What have you, the fans, or the sport itself, got out of this? The most telling moments of the tour came when Messi had the ball at his feet. That's when he looked happiest. That's when football, not commerce, took center stage. When 13-year-old Tanishka Kawade nutmegged Luis Suarez, Messi's reaction said it all. There was surprise, joy, and of course, followed by respect. That moment revealed the real potential of Indian football. Those 60 children present at Wankhede Stadium weren't randomly picked. Scouts had travelled across the state of Maharashtra, cities and small towns therein, identifying raw talent. They're now part of a long-term project, structured coaching, educational scholarships, a genuine pathway. That initiative matters. But here's the thing, those moments were far too brief. Imagine if the GOAT Tour had focused more on this instead. Messi visiting grassroots academies, spending time with young Indian footballers, the aspirants, interacting with the national side. It didn't need a match, it didn't need goals, because when you bring the greatest of all time, the real value lies in the transfer of knowledge. Imagine Messi telling the kids how football really can be elevated. So tonight, let's ask ourselves this: what will Messi take back from India? the chaos in Kolkata, a friendly kickabout with a chief minister of a state, photo ops with politicians and other celebrities, or that nutmeg from a 13-year-old who reminded him why he fell in love with this sport in the first place. Messi's India tour was historic. It was emotional. It will be unforgettable for various reasons, but it will also be this, a missed opportunity. Because Indian football doesn't need moments, it needs a movement. It doesn't need just headlines, it needs an entire story. If this tour sparks long-term investment, grassroots development and administrative reform, then Messi's visit will have truly mattered. Otherwise, it will remain what it currently is, a spectacular show that came and went. A nation hoping to become sports powerhouse surely deserves much more than just that. The IPL mini auctions is set to take place in Abu Dhabi on the 16th of December. Now, while this isn't the big auction, there are many talking points that are bound to emerge from this edition too, because every auction tells a story. But I'm pretty certain many of you are wondering, how do these auctions actually work? What really happens? What kind of preparations go on behind the scenes? Who has the final say? What role do captains and coaches play in the entire process? And of course, there'll be lots more. I'll try to answer many of your queries right here. Now, an auction is exciting. Any auction, big or small. There is lots happening that's leading up to that particular day. So having been part of IPL franchises in the past myself, and of course recently also been part of a mock auction, I can tell you how things actually work. Let's start with the who. Who has the final say in an IPL auction? Who does the buck stop with? That person for most franchises is the coach. That's right, pretty much like a football team, the coach here is the one who's the master of ceremonies. The squad they aim to assemble has to be aligned with what his vision is, and that's how most IPL franchises really function. You look at the Gujarat Titans, you look at the Punjab outfit, also Rajasthan. The coach's dream is paramount, and most franchises want it that way. They want the coach to succeed. Also, it lends a sense of accountability here. That's why you see so many churn and changes. A bad year can result in a change in guard completely. Of course, a few who have escaped that consequence largely is Kumar Sangakkara, someone like him with Rajasthan, Stephen Fleming with Chennai despite a few odd years there, and of course someone like a Ricky Ponting. Various reasons, of course, for that, but we won't get into that. It's about the franchise's philosophy at the end of the day and how much the coach is aligned to all of it. Of course, there are a few franchises where the owners have a say. I don't need to mention those to you for you to understand where I'm coming from. The owners will want to at least know where their money is being spent and on whom. Then there is the captain. He is essential to the process, no doubt. But he won't be sitting in on the meetings. He won't necessarily be part of the strategizing and brainstorming sessions, barring a few examples. But he could have a say in what players the franchises decide to go after. Certain teams have a very heavy captain's influence. You can sense that. And of course, the more experienced you are, the more say you will have. But this also leads me to the important aspect of the kind of players franchises look to make up their squad. While things like stats, numbers, performances in certain conditions are all key aspects, they also see who will work better with the captain and the coach setup, their philosophy, the kind of dressing room they want to have. Is that why there are more Kiwi players with one franchise? Is that why certain coaches pick more Australians in their squad? Contrastingly, it's also why certain Australians are not picked unanimously, because you don't want that kind of energy in your dressing rooms, because they just do not gel well with the way IPL works and the rest of the squad do. These are things that most certainly looked at when an IPL franchise builds its squad from scratch. Which players will fit into their philosophy as a team and as a winning combination, because winning an IPL is not easy and everyone wants to. Then we come to the auctions itself. How do teams plan this? What kind of prep takes place ahead an auction, big or the mini ones? So every franchise has a machinery in place by now. A team that comprises talent scouts, analysts, number crunchers, who in turn have their own networks of coaches, mentors across various domestic circuits right around the world, not just in India. But while the scouting and noting down talents work is round the clock, the actual legwork, the majority of the grunt work that goes into any auction happens days prior to that auction date, when the final list of players is compiled. That's when teams really get together, hash it out. Different franchises do it different ways. Some get together physically, either at the offices and then of course at the venue, or go ahead to the venue itself and brainstorm and come up with a plan. Some also connect their key personnel online. Now, in fact, the most important person on most franchise tables is the analyst. He or she is who really starts off all proceedings during the meetings. They work within the framework of the team philosophy and directive, and they actually come up with a plan of action for the auction. The best picks, the best options, and who all the franchise can actually bet big on. And their analysis is, of course, backed by numbers, video analysis, research, even knowing the player psyche and performance graph. So it is these handful of people who are important to the decision-making process that actually carry out a number of discussions over the players that are needed. The requirement of players, we go to that next. It depends on what gaps there are to fill in your lineup. From a middle order batter, a backup keeper, a lower order pinch hitter, backup seamer, the requirement is aplenty, going by the availability of the players, injury concerns, and how they actually adapt to the conditions. Now let's move to the plan itself. There is a plan A, the top priority player the franchise wants in each of the roles that they need players for. Then there is a plan B. Of course, if they do not get that plan A player, but why is this critical? It's because of the various reasons that come into play. As players in each category are picked up by lots, you don't know the order they could come in, you don't know who comes in when, plus what if you lose out on that player in a bidding war with another franchise? Which brings me to the mini auction dynamics itself. The popular perception is this: the big auction is more manic, more crazy, more entertaining, as all franchises have big purses to spend. That's wrong. The mini auction is more chaotic because when the purse is relatively less, more frugal expenditure, it can only amount to some crazy buys. Overpaying for a player that you had set certain amount aside for could happen because mini auctions end up being more erratic purely because of the gap in demand and supply. Simple. Now to some popular questions that some of you may have. We see these mock auctions that are being conducted everywhere on YouTube channels, broadcast networks. Do franchises themselves do this? Do franchises conduct mock auctions? Some actually do. Few franchises like Rajasthan and even Punjab have conducted mock auctions in the past. Now, while this is a decent practice to warm up with, nothing can possibly prepare or arm you for what to expect at that auction table. The other question I'm asked is, do franchises speak to the players they want to buy beforehand? Now, while it does happen in leagues across the world, as players have agents and they are approached, there's also a sense of commission that goes on. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. It doesn't necessarily apply in the IPL largely, primarily because this is a massive league and there is no need for a backroom channel on most occasions. The other question, do owners have a say? Do they veto? Yes, in some cases, but very rare. IPL is a space where a lot of the decisions are very, very analytical, and it is one of the most talented and competitive leagues in the world. The last one is on AI and tech. Do they play a role? And how useful is this in IPL scenarios today? Yes, teams definitely do use AI and tech to an extent, but truth is it can never prepare you as well as human-led research will, as the auction is dynamic and a lot of it is unpredictable. And that's a good note to wrap this one up to. We can't wait to see what unpredictable outcomes this edition of the auction in Abu Dhabi will throw up. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is now less than a year away, and what was sold to the world as football's grandest, most inclusive celebration is quickly turning into one of the most controversial World Cups ever planned. The American Dream project is under heavy scrutiny. FIFA is being slammed for what many are calling obscene ticket prices. The governing body has been accused of extortion. Is the 2026 World Cup only meant for the rich? Or was FIFA left with no other option but to price fans out? Now, ever since the 2026 World Cup was announced, there have been only growing concerns around it. First, it was, of course, the United States' strict visa policies, threatening to keep thousands of genuine fans out of the country altogether. Now it's the tickets, because once the draw was completed and fixtures all confirmed, only one thing truly mattered for fans all across the globe: how can we enter the stadium? And can we truly afford it? When FIFA released the ticket prices last week, the shock was instant and widespread. A group stage match could cost you up to $700. And the World Cup final, hold your breath, anywhere between $4,000 to nearly $9,000. Let that sink in. That's more than 3 times the cost of tickets that was at Qatar 2022, just some years ago. In fact, for fans from countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Bangladesh or Nepal, our neighbors, that price is more than a month's income. So yes, if you want to watch the World Cup live in 2026, you better be ready to dig into your life savings for that. And that's exactly why the outrage is only intensifying.
They're outrageously expensive. This guy would love to go, but unfortunately, us working class can't afford it.
I know they're a lot more than World Cups past, which I know has turned off me and a lot of my friends from at least in the first couple rounds here of tickets. We've foregone getting any. Kind of hoping maybe closer to the games that they fall off in price.
I think they're pretty insane, honestly. I've been a long-time soccer fan, been watching since I was a kid. I remember watching the World Cup back in 2010, 2014, and I was pretty excited to watch this year and go to some of these games. But, even though I have adult money, I can't really afford some of these tickets, which is just insane for the everyday fans.
I was pretty shocked when I first heard the numbers. It's disappointing, especially for fans who might be really, interested in the game itself, but, maybe not in a financial position to, swing that kind of price.
So the obvious next question has to be this. Could FIFA have handled this any better? Now, let's be fair and honest here. FIFA is not an organization that makes money every single year. The World Cup is really their only big cash cow. Before the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, FIFA was staring at losses close to $1 billion. That's quite a bit. But despite those losses, the 2019-2022 cycle ended with record revenues. And the reason for that was simple: the World Cup in Qatar. That's why FIFA has expanded almost everything since then. A 48-team World Cup, a 32-team Club World Cup, because multi-nation events are where FIFA can truly recover its losses and make profit too. Money keeps the machine running, but here's where FIFA's biggest failure lies. It's in branding and lack of transparency. For months, FIFA marketed the 2026 edition as the World Cup for all. They promised accessibility. They promoted inclusivity. They gave assurances of ticket prices starting at $60 a piece. But when the tickets finally dropped, that $60 promise vanished into thin air. And that's where fans feel cheated. If this World Cup was always going to be premium, expensive, elite, exclusive, why not say it up front? Why sell hope to fans in developing nations only to shut the gates once the money talks? Because football's biggest strength has always been its universality. A kid in Lagos, Kolkata or La Paz should feel just as connected to the sport as someone in London or New York. Right now, that connection feels broken. Yes, hosting a World Cup across the US, Canada and Mexico is expensive. Yes, infrastructure, security, logistics, they all cost a lot. They cost billions. But football is not just a business, it's an emotion. If FIFA wanted a World Cup for the elite, they should have said so. Because promising a World Cup for all and delivering a World Cup for the wealthy is where the anger truly stems from. The 2026 World Cup has the potential to be historic. More teams, more matches, more global attention and scrutiny. But history is not written by numbers alone. It's written by the people, by fans who travel thousands of miles, by chants that reverberate inside stadiums, by nations that live and breathe football. If FIFA forgets that, no amount of revenue will be enough to justify the cost, because the World Cup was never meant to be a luxury product. It was meant to be football's greatest festival. And right now, far too many fans are being left outside the gates. For our last story, we take you to Portugal. In Nazaré, athletes battle giant waves of up to 60 feet to be crowned champions. Watch them battle brutal wipeouts and tricky conditions as they do so. That wraps it up here on First Sports. I'll, of course, see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. Bye-bye.
They promised glory. They delivered fear. They shaped nations. They scarred generations. From brutal purges to propaganda machines, from stolen power to violent falls from the throne. Welcome to The Dictator, a series that strips away the myth and then exposes the men behind the tyranny. History remembers their power. Firstpost reveals their truth.